Okay. Well, welcome everyone to our 1-hour workshop, Find More of Your Voice with Jon Hunter. It'll finish at 10:15. Jon is an acting coach and he is a voice specialist who's worked with a professional voice for over 20 years. Most recently, he was the senior acting tutor and head of voice at Toi Whakaari, the drama school, a New Zealand drama school, for 7 years, before he returned to freelancing under the banner of The Radical Actor. Today, Jon explores the concept of personal vocal patterns and how, examining some of the rules around speech, we can learn more about ourselves and each other. He wants to explore discovery over delivery and being present instead of being in presentation mode, which will be very, very interesting for Toastmasters. In this workshop, Jon would like you to please leave your videos on and your sound off. And he has the amazing ability of reading people's chats as well as talking. And in the last 15 minutes, we will try and answer questions which haven't been answered yet. So please welcome Jon.
Good morning, everybody. I'll just check a few things first. So I'm on a different laptop to the one that I'm normally on. Tech issues connecting up to Wi-Fi. So Jackie, if I just ask you on behalf of everyone, can you hear me okay? Great, thank you. And I'm just going to see if I can let you see me a bit better, because I'm in a room where there's a lot of light affecting. I look all hazy and it's not really hazy. So I'm just going to turn off the light and see if it makes it better. Won't be a sec. No, you might have to put up with me being a slightly hazy ghost. I hope that's okay, everyone. Thank you for having me with you. And it's kind of funny, isn't it, that we're going to be with each other for almost the next hour, looking at speech together, and you've been asked to be on mute. Be quiet. So whilst, you know, that's just a part of this slightly strange way of us being together, I do encourage you to try to work out a way of being as active as possible for yourself. And that might mean that that you type stuff in the chat as you're thinking about things, as I say things that provoke you in some way or spark your curiosity. If you need to get up because you're sitting down for too long, that's all good by me. Get up and move around and stretch yourselves out, and things like that. And I'll just keep going and I'll check in every now and then if I feel like I'm losing you. But yeah, just aware that Zoom is hard. I'm aware that Zoom is hard. I've been doing it for the past 2 years. Many of you have as well, I'm sure, in terms of changing the way that I work. So I'm quite used to it, but it's not my ideal. I would love to be in a room with you all instead, and real life, really feeling you as human beings. But hey ho, here we are. Now I'm getting a silly little message saying my internet is unstable. Jackie, again, I'll just use you to do this. If I go a little bit, I'm wondering if I am now, if I go a little bit out of sync or anything, can somebody just pop in the chat that you've missed something or that I'm frozen or whatever, so that I'm aware, because, you know, from my end, I don't really know. So I don't want you to be polite around that. Let me know. Okay, so, oh, that's a good one. Yeah, if I just check on the thing behind me. Okay, so lots of things in my head that I want to talk with you about, and that I get excited about when I get this opportunity. And we'll see how many of them come out. But let's start off by just gathering a bit of information from you, if I could. So if I'm in, no, I'll ask that in a different way. I just want to ask you a question. So with what you know and what you don't know about who I am and what I'm here to do with you, can you just in the chat, quickly as you can, so you don't need to think too hard about this, no judgment here, but what brings you here? What are you interested in? Let's just take a moment to share some of that stuff. Why did you choose this workshop over the other options? Cool, and I'll read some stuff out as people pop them in, just for those who perhaps can't see the chat or are watching this later. Effective communication. Somebody liked my video and intro, thank you. Toastmasters speeches can be formulaic, wanting to sound more natural rather than fake. Curiosity, voice projection, voice confidence, starting to write, wanting to learn more about my voice, how we speak. Great, you can keep writing stuff like this if you want. Sounds challenging, maximize bringing words to life. This is lovely, thank you. And like I say, keep writing stuff in there if you want, and others can be seeing what you're thinking about as well. Okay, question 2. What's your biggest vocal challenge at the moment? If you had to name one, what's your biggest vocal challenge that you perceive for yourself? And have a read of what's in the chat as well, and I'll read a few things out. Words run away, volume, especially in places where I lack confidence, sounding insincere, nodules preventing full range, toning my voice down because nerves make me loud. Great, thank you everyone for being so open and sharing these things. And this is just an opportunity for me to get a sense of where you're at and how I can perhaps attune myself to your needs a little bit, as well as getting the things I want to get out. Okay, last question, one more question, just to get a sense of how we can work together today. And that question is, what else there? Oh yeah, okay. What do you think good voice is? What's good voice, good speech? There'll be lots of things you think about, so maybe just one or two. What's good voice to you? Like a radio announcer. Easy to listen to, one that doesn't drone. I'm going to get a bit of a complex here, making sure that I don't do these things that you're saying are the bad things. Clear, nice to listen to, sincere, approachable. Projects even when soft. Variation. Hear and understand you, a storyteller. Not strained. Interesting, vocal variety. This is beautiful, everyone. Thank you so much for sharing. What are you doing here? Go out into the world and make some noise. You've got lots of ideas about what you're interested in, what you know is good voicing. But perhaps that brings up the fact, right, that it's a little bit harder sometimes than just identifying the thing that we want for ourselves and then actually doing it, especially when we're in more stressful environments. So one of the things that last question makes me think about is this idea of rules around speech, rules that exist for us. And I'm talking about you individually. So there may be overall rules that perhaps an expert could say, good voice is this, or good speech is this. And then you'll have personal rules that you're not even potentially aware of, or beliefs that you have around what good voice is, or what my voice is when it's good. And you'll have stories that you've been told. And lots of these stories come from childhood as well. Stories that you've been told, or narratives that pop up when you hear yourself in different ways. And what I guess, if I think about what I really want you to come away from today thinking about and maybe getting more curious about, is whether some of those rules and stories and beliefs that you have around your voice are useful to hold on to, or whether you can be a little bit playful perhaps with starting to test them in different ways, or let go of them, even if just for a moment, to try something else. Because I won't ask you how old you are, but I'll tell you how old I am. 44, which means that I've pretty much had 44 years of speaking the same way. So it's not that we in 1 hour together, less than an hour, are going to be able to shake that up and completely change the way that you speak, or the way that you think about your voice. But we might be able to open some doors, let you peek inside, and give you an opportunity to go and play inside that little playground a bit later. How does that sound? Thumbs up if that's okay. Thumbs down if you want me to do something else. I've got lots of stuff I can talk about, so I've got no problems pivoting somewhere else. Okay. Let's see if I can pull myself together and get you to try some things. here we go. I'm going to do a really simple exercise with you. Make sure that you can see. So when I do this with my hands, sort of open palms up, I want you to breathe in. When I turn them over that way, I want you to breathe out. Okay, simple as that. And I'll do the same thing at the same time. So we're just trying to coordinate our breathing. Here we go. So, and do this with your hands as well, so that you're really instructing your body, instructing your breath using your hands. So this way is breathe in, this way is breathe out. And we're going to start now. So breathing in. And we breathe out when we open our hands up. That's probably the opposite to what I said originally. That's okay. We're doing this for now. Megan's going, yes, you did say the opposite. And breathing in. Breathing in. And out. And one more time, breathing in. And out. Thank you. Lots of things that I think about with that very simple exercise. One is that some of you will have gone into, he's asking me to do something and I'm on camera, and we move into this idea of performing. So you might have felt a little bit of that. I'm going to be watched and I'm doing something and people are going to judge how well I do the thing. So that's just something to notice, even if it was small. And another thing you might have noticed is like, oh yeah, this is simple. I've got this. Breathe in when the hands go that way, breathe out when they go that way. Oh, he's doing it again, he's doing it again. And then we go into this space where we decide that we know, and we sort of switch off. We kind of go into, oh yeah, he's doing a regular rhythm. So I know what's going on, and I can start thinking about other things, like when is this going to end? My jug's boiling. I want to go and make a cup of coffee. I should have eaten more for breakfast this morning. I'm hungry. So that thing that can happen where we move into this prediction mode is something that our brain does a lot. So the brain is a prediction machine, and that's a useful thing. What I mean there is that it gathers all of the information that's out in the world really quickly, and it goes, oh yeah, I've got you. And then it just goes and it does the thing. Problem for us when we're thinking about speaking is sometimes when we go too quickly to that thing of thinking that we know what's going on, that we sort of switch off and we lose this thing that I'm trying so desperately to do with you. And it's hard work for me because you're about that big. The interview's about that big for me. And I'm on a foreign laptop as well. So I'm really aware that I'm not like it's a Windows laptop and I'm a Mac person. So everything looks foreign to me. Thanks, Jackie. Am I more together now? Jackie, just let me know it's a little bit. Sometimes I'll just do that to just test if you're still here. I'll start to speak like that just to see if you're listening. Okay. Prediction is going to be something that I just want you to become aware of. Have I decided what's going on, and have I moved into the space where I've stopped being present? So you know that, and Jackie reminded you that I'm interested in this thing of what is it to be present and to not be in presentation mode, to not be, right, I'm doing this thing. It feels a little bit like a dance and people are watching me because I'm on this silly Zoom and there's a camera. And then we move into this idea of I'm presenting something, simple as breathing. What is it just to stay with the action and to just get curious about what is it just to use my hands in this way to instruct my breath. So we'll do it one more time. Just go with me. Maybe even close your eyes once you're kind of aware of the rhythm so that you don't need to worry about anyone watching you. And just see if you can get interested in the gift that I'm giving you of just breathing for a while. Little gift for 10 seconds. Have a breath. Okay, so breathing in, breathing out. And again, I can't remember what I originally said, so I might have swapped it again. Here we go. Breathing in and out. Thank you. Maybe that felt a little bit different. Maybe there was less concern for how you were being seen. for what somebody might have thought of you, and maybe you just got more interested in the experience. So if that were a way of starting to think about speech in a slightly different way, how can we perhaps open ourselves up to this idea of speech being more about, well, for now, I'll say this for now, more about sensation than about presentation or something, more about just experiencing what it is to speak as opposed to delivering something hard to somebody else. Just checking in again. Apologies, I'll do this every time this little message pops up. I had the little internet unstable. Are we all good? You look, thanks, Max. Just let me know, and I know this is really frustrating when this happens, and unfortunately, I'm not sure if I can change things. I should tell you, I'm currently at Rata Studios in Wellington, in a recording studio in this very posh school that has lots of equipment. And I'm about to, after this session with you, pop into another room just down the hall with 50 young budding actors. So that's why I'm not at home in my usual studio, where I'm much more confident that the technology is supporting what I'm trying to do. Okay, so here's a little story for you. When I was younger, with my grandmother, when I used to visit my grandmother, she would, you know, as a kid, you get hungry or thirsty or whatever, and she would, or when I got thirsty, I would ask her if I could get a glass of water or have a glass of milk. But I used to say, you know, Grandma, can I have a glass of water? Or can I have a glass of milk? And she would say back to me, yes, you can, when you ask properly. What do you mean? Would be the thought in my head, at least. She said, well, ask for a glass of water or a glass of milk, not a glass of water or a glass of milk. And that was perhaps that's my first memory of having somebody correct my speech, or attempt to correct my speech, or tell me that the way that I was communicating was wrong and that it needed adjusting. Can I just ask you, do a little poll? And you don't necessarily need to write it in the chat, but just think for yourself. Do you say water or water? Or do you sort of say both, maybe depending on how much you're thinking about it? And do you say milk or milk? And you might need to test and say it out loud to work out which one you do. I'm going to perhaps burst some bubbles or upset some people when I say that neither is incorrect or correct. In fact, both are correct. It's just depending on context, right? So we have this idea that there's correct ways of speaking. Water is correct because it has a T in it, and T's are T sounding. So what's water? Water sounds like a D inside it. But in terms of speech, it's about contextual correctness. What's appropriate for the environment, for the world within which I'm speaking, and what's appropriate for me in terms of the identity that I carry, and therefore the words that come out of my mouth. So if I would, and this is something I have done, when I teach accents to actors, and I'm talking about not on stage, I'm talking about film. So this has got a lot of money behind it, and it needs to be correct, needs to be right. I'll get in trouble if I don't do my job well. I've had to teach a few people who are not from New Zealand how to speak with a New Zealand accent. And by and large, when I do that, depending on the character, but by and large, if they're sort of salt of the earth New Zealanders, then they say water and they say milk. Because to say water, milk, doesn't strongly enough put somebody inside New Zealand, because that's harking to a mode of pronunciation which actually isn't from this country. It isn't part of the core accent of New Zealand. So I'll be upsetting some of you here, which is good, I know, because you will speak the other way and you will like that other way of speaking. You will think that that other way of speaking is potentially more right or better. And I just want you to see if you can give yourself permission to think it's just different. It's just different, that's all. I'll pull up something that Ashley's just put in the chat because I think it's interesting to share. I'm a speech therapist. Lots of people ask if I can correct their speech, but actually they speak fine. That's right. Yes. So we have these rules, these ideas of what we think we should sound like, and that can sometimes drive us. And also there are people out in the world who, like my grandmother, tell us that the way that we speak is incorrect, either directly or through maybe things they don't say, or through the way they treat us. They can make us aware in ways which make us uncomfortable. But it is interesting just to realize that that we speak based on belonging. And what I mean there is we want to belong. That's sort of a biological imperative as a human being, to belong to group, to be part of a tribe. And we're going to speak like the people that we're around the most. Of course we are, because we want to fit in. And if I sound different to the group of people, my group of friends or my family or whatever, then I'm different. I'm trying to make myself different to them, or I just am different. So there's lots of reasons why we speak the way that we do, but in different contexts, we might want to adjust the way that we speak to fit in more. But I would also just argue that for us, if I've given, just be a bit more gentle with people around you. Doesn't mean that they're morally, just that they have a different point of reference to the way that they speak. And also the only, sorry, I'm just sort of laying a lot of stuff on you. I'll get you to do something in a moment. The other thing is, if you can understand somebody, it doesn't need correcting, right? You can understand when I say, can I have a glass of water? Can I have a glass of water? Can I have a glass of milk? Can I have a glass of milk? You can understand both of them. So it doesn't need correcting. It's if something is getting in the way of communication that we should be worrying about how to change it or why to change it. Or you just get curious. I have the good fortune of being an actor. So part of my job as an actor is to speak like other people. It's such a gift. Is to learn other accents, is to learn the rhythms of the way that other people speak, is to learn the melody patterns of the way other people speak. And I get to sort of step into their shoes, or in terms of speech, step into their mouth a little bit when I perform them. But perhaps that's a little challenge for you, is to imagine that you're an actor as you start to play with your voice more, and the way that you just get curious about trying to do what you hear other people do. And not thinking that you're doing it because it's good or it's bad or it's right or it's wrong. It's just, well, it is. That's the way Bradley speaks. That's the way Ashley speaks. That's the way Gail speaks. Pulling up some of your names, reminding you that I can see you and that I'm with you. And then we just go, well, what is it to try to do what I'm hearing here, and to not judge it, to not try to work out why it is, but it is. So can I do it? Can we play a little game? It's a pronunciation game of sorts. Can you just make it, the letter T, can you just say a T sound for me? T. T. And I want you to see if you can work out for yourself.
T.
Those who are speech, thank you, whoever shared that out loud. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I want you to see if you can work out for yourselves. Those that are speech therapists will know my game I'm playing. Can you see if you can work out how you make a T sound? I'll give you a clue. It's the tip of your tongue making contact with somewhere inside your mouth. That's how I want you to start. Where is the tip of your tongue contacting to make a T sound?
T. 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 T.
Good. Chitra, I think that's you that we can hear. You're doing a wonderful example.
Thank you, Hunter.
And once you've, and can you pause your, mute yourself just so that as
Sure.
you continue to explore, thank you. And yeah, that's just so that other people don't just listen to you and that they're doing it as well. Yes, thank you. So the roof of the mouth, tip of the tongue is contacting the roof of the mouth. And if we get even more specific than just at the top, it's for most of us, and it won't be for all of us, I already know this, but for most of us, we'll be able to isolate and work out that it's just behind the top teeth, in the middle, just behind. T. And if it's not, can you move it there? If you're finding that your tongue is maybe further back or further forward, can you see if you can get it just behind, not on the teeth, just behind the teeth? T, t, and make the T from there. And if I add a vowel onto the end of it, it would sound like t, t. Can you now move your tongue further back? You've got to kind of curl the tip of it back, but move it further back in your mouth and still make a T sound. It would sound something like t, t, t. And now I'm going to get you to do the opposite and move it further forward. So now it's on your teeth as you make the sound. T, 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 tip of the tongue touching the back of the top teeth to make a T sound. T. So if I get a little bit political with you for a sec, as I like to, and you can't fight me because you're on the other end of the screen. We know that one of the challenges that we face in New Zealand at the moment is the revitalisation of Aotearoa, and the way that we're all sort of being asked to embrace and to learn how to pronounce Māori perhaps with more correctness, but I don't like that word. But what I'm getting you to explore here is just play in your mouth, but that T that you're making when your tongue is touching your front teeth is perhaps a more correct T for pronunciation of Māori. So if we think of a word like taupo, t, t, to, not taupo, or tauranga, but taupo. So when we can just start to play in this way, we can start to invite ourselves into other worlds of existence, or other worlds of pronunciation, perhaps. And it's not about a rightness, it's just about what happens when I do this. And like I say, as an actor, I find this really easy, and I know that I've got a sort of a privileged position of having training that invites me to play constantly and to not try to get something right, but just explore. But just with what we did there, moving the tongue further forward in the mouth to touch the top front teeth as I make a T, t, t. It's not only the T that you would hear inside something like taupo, but it's also the T, I can't do this with my hands, TH that you hear inside Irish. Thought. I had a thought. I was thinking. T. It's exactly the same articulation. Just have a think about what I've just said to you. So in one accent or one mode of pronunciation, something that we do with our mouth is creating a T sound. Just move somewhere else in the world, that exact same action creates a TH sound. And I'll just give you another one, just another way of playing and just freeing up our relationship to sound. Can you put on your best American character? We're going to do a little bit of acting together. Your best American accent. And I just want you to say, do you know that tongue twister, Betty Botter bought a bit of butter? Betty Botter bought a bit of bitter butter. And I'll say it with your best American accent. It doesn't matter how good it is, but Betty Botter bought a bit of bitter butter. Betty Botter bought a bit of bitter butter. Have fun, have a play. No one can hear you, except whoever's in your earshot, but I can't. No one else in this room can. Betty Botter bought a bit of bitter butter. If I get you to get curious about the T sound that exists inside the middle of those words. So Betty, we say Betty, butter, 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 butter. So somebody might say, if I said, describe for me that T sound, the American T in the middle of a word, especially. People would probably say, oh, it's a D. Can I get you to say Betty? So make it a true D. So the word Betty, the name Betty, make it a true D, Betty. It's not, it's close, but it's not what we were doing when we're doing our American accent. Betty, Betty, Betty. But we don't have a word or a way of describing it perhaps. But that sound that you're making there is actually a tapped R sound, or it's the same articulation as a tapped R. So if you were to say, do your best Scottish, doesn't matter how bad it is, again, no one can hear, your best idea, even if you don't even know what a Scottish accent sounds like. And I want you to say red rabbit, red rabbit, red rabbit. I don't know, it's a terrible Scottish accent. Red rabbit, and feel what you're doing with the R sound. Red, red. And then go back to saying Betty, Betty in your American accent, Betty, Betty. It's the same articulation as the tapped R in the Scottish red rabbit. Your tongue's doing exactly the same thing. I bring this stuff up to, one, perhaps just confuse you. Not to confuse you, but you might just be confused. Like, what am I doing? What are you asking me to do, and why is it important? Because I just want to bust up your ideas around what you think speech is. All we're doing is we're moving our tongue and our breath and our vocal folds around in different ways, and sounds are coming out. Depending on who's listening, they will interpret those sounds in different ways. Like I say, if an Irish listener is listening to me do a sound where my tongue is against my teeth and they go, they hear TH. Somebody in New Zealand probably hears a T, and they'll subscribe it to a particular part of our population as well and say, oh, those people speak with a T like that. So these rules that we have around, you know, what speech is and when it's good and when it's bad and when it's right and when it's wrong are contextual. I'm sort of giving you a bit of sense of what I mean when I say contextual. It's just like depending on what place you're putting yourself inside as to whether it's right or not. And it can really throw us, I think, when we get stuck in this idea of rules, inside what's right and what's wrong. And I know that for myself, I've done a lot of unlearning. So I went to drama school when I was about 20 and spent 3 years there. And at that time, you know, it was 20 plus years ago. At that time, the drama schools in this country still very much had a voice training model, which was using the idea of correct speech being a British standard. Yeah, so it's correct contextually to this idea of standard British, or received pronunciation is an old term for that. Received from whom? Like, who gifted this pronunciation to the world? And here it is, the way to speak. So I did a lot of training which was around correcting my speech to sounding like somebody from England, and somebody not just from England, but somebody educated from England. And those of you who are old enough to remember the way that our radio presenters and TV presenters spoke not that long ago, in the 60s and earlier, from the 70s it started shifting, but they sounded like they're from a different country, right? And maybe our parents did as well, sounded like they're from somewhere else. So this relates back to this thing of rules and beliefs around what we think good speech is, and good speech is from the motherland. Thank you very much. Received pronunciation. And, you know, luckily we've busted that up quite a lot, and we're accepting of many more sounds now. But just check with yourself every now and then when you have a little moment of frustration perhaps around the way that somebody else speaks, and see where that's coming from. You know, I still get it myself. I still have to check myself sometimes when I hear somebody say something a particular way and I want to correct it, I want to change it. Oh, that's not the way that's supposed to be said. You know, it's not the way that I want to say it myself, or the way that it would be said if you were playing a particular character who were, you know, who you were saying was from somewhere. But anyway, maybe the point that I want to leave you with there as well is that speech is deeply embedded. So we've spent, like I say, for me, I've spent, okay, I have to change my story now because I've divulged to you that I went to drama school and had a lot of voice training. But, you know, we've spent the majority of our lives locking ourselves into one way of making noise. And then if we get curious about wanting to perhaps see what else is possible, we've got very deeply embedded pathways that we will want to constantly fall back into because those pathways have been walked so constantly. So to be able to start to shift that, start to move that and start to explore in other places, we just need to be really conscious and take time. I could have spent this whole session doing just a whole lot of exercises with you. But I could guarantee 99% of you would never do them again. Not because you don't want to, but because I haven't kind of wakened your curiosity up in the right way where you would want to. So that's why I'm more interested in kind of exploring this territory, talking with you in this way. I'm just going to pause for a moment because I know I've been asking you to think about a lot and just give you an opportunity, perhaps, if anyone has any burning questions, just to chuck them out now. And I'm also just reading a bit of the chat too. Cool, okay. This idea of speech as sense that I've provoked you with, named this session, let's do a little bit of work in that area. Like this is a whole body of work which I would spend weeks and weeks and weeks with somebody working on, months, years. 3 years at drama school, when I taught at the drama school. Yeah, that's right. So I'm not sure whether it's Annette or Shane because both names are there, but how do you start to change? That's where I'm sort of heading us now. Like, how do we start to explore in this territory a little bit more? One, we've just got to get curious. So hopefully you're more curious and a little bit more willing to say, I've got some rules around the way that I speak which feel good and feel like me, but there are other things out there that I can do and can explore. Mimicry is really good. It's really simple. It's a really simple idea, but maybe it's just about, in some ways, who do I like to listen to? Find some good speakers, people that you resonate with or that resonate with you, and find some good speeches, interviews, recordings or whatever, and just play them and copy what you hear. Like, you'll have limited ability to hear everything because you don't have the language necessarily to know, to be able to fine-tune, pick up different things. But just see if you can start to tune into some of the things. How do they use melody? So if I just, I want you to just copy me now. I'm going to get you to think about a few different things. Melody. So that's the tune. It's not the rhythm. It's not the pronunciation. It's just what are the notes? So if I say, today is a bright, sunny day. Today is a bright, sunny day. And I'll say it one more time. Today is a bright, sunny day. Sing the melody of what you just heard me do. And take the words out even. Just get focused in on the tune. Just make it like la la la, la la la, la la la. So that's one thing that you can wake yourself up to. What is the melody pattern of this person that I'm listening to, that I like, that I want to maybe see if I can do some more of what they do? Another one is rhythm. Perhaps we can think about rhythm as being the heartbeat or the drum beat that sits underneath the way somebody speaks. It's really about the stress, how they stress words. So stress being the way that I highlight what I want you to hear. Yeah, Ashley's saying that something that Ashley does, mimicking internet videos. Making fools, yeah, because you're having fun, right? That's what it's about. It's having fun, not getting too kind of like locked into trying to get something right. So with this idea of rhythm and stress, how somebody stresses. So if I change my rhythm a little bit and try to let you just feel, actually, when I start stressing in different ways, and I'm stressing a whole lot more now than I normally do, you start to feel me as a different person. You feel a different rhythm. So see if you can work out, as I'm talking, and I might, what can I say now? It is 9:55. which means we have about 20 minutes left. It is 9:55, which means we have about 20 minutes left. One more time, it's 9:55, which means we have about 20 minutes left. What's the drum beat inside that? So not the melody. It's 9:55, which means we have about 20 minutes left. So I'm asking you to be a musician, right? A little bit. So you can get focused in on rhythm. How does the rhythm of whoever I'm listening to different to mine? And you've got to play with this kind of thing for a little while to feel how it sits inside your body and how it asks you to be different and change yourself a little bit. It's not like do it once and, oh yeah, I've learned now because I copied that voice, copied Obama, I copied a speech. So now I'm a good orator. You need to sit with something for a while. Another thing you can think about or tune into is the vocal quality. So the tonal quality of their voice, the texture of their voice, and just get a little bit playful. You'll start to feel like you're doing cartoon voicing, maybe a little bit, because you're still trying to move your voice around into things that don't feel normal for you. As two examples of me moving to different vocal qualities. But if I give you, and these will feel like doing cartoons now, I'm just going to give you some quite extreme vocal qualities to copy. Again, have fun because no one can hear what you're doing. It doesn't matter how close you get to what you think I'm doing. If I just count to 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Your turn. And this isn't about like nice voice, ugly voice, or whatever. I'm just trying to get you to move things around and notice what it feels like when you move things around as well. Here's another one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Great. Thank you for being so playful. So what you're doing there is you're adjusting the acoustic makeup of your voice. You're creating different shapes inside your instrument, which have the result of the quality of the sound coming out in a different way. So if you want more richness in your voice, if you want more clarity, sometimes people use, and clarity, if I just pull up that word, clarity is not just about articulation of consonants. Clarity is also about tone. So we can get more tone in, clarity in the tone of our voice as well, which make us easier to hear. So if you want people that are thinking about getting more richness or more depth or more variety inside their voice, sometimes that's about tonal quality. If we just have a little bit of play, and this is now really moving into cartoon voice type of territory. But what is it to try to make your sound live in your nose? It's an imaginative idea. But one isn't to kind of get your sound feeling like it's coming out of your nose, just speaking out of your nose. And you can screw your nose up a little bit to try to help the sound get there if you want. And you can kind of feel that I'm ending up going into a bit of a caricature. You might feel a little bit of an accent coming on, or a little bit of a character. So in your nose, this idea of placement perhaps, in your nose, what is it to have the sound living, feeling like it's living at the front of your mouth? What is it to have it feel like all of the energy of your voice lives at the front of your mouth? And again, just say anything. You can just count numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Days of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Front of the mouth. Yeah, great. And then what is it to move the sound to, again, these are ideas, to sort of, it'll feel like the back of the mouth, but you know that feeling that you get, or if you were ever that child who used to fake being sick so you didn't have to go to school, like, Bob, I've got a cold, and you kind of create this like blocked feeling at the back of your mouth. where your M sounds end up sounding like B sounds. So what you're actually literally doing there is blocking off the airway to the or the door to the nose, as it were. So could you see if you could find that sound? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, it's like you're sick. You've got a blocked nose. So that kind of quality at the back of the mouth. What is it to? It's kind of like Kermit. I'll just shorthand and say Kermit voice.
What is it to try to find that kind of voice where, again, it's the back of the mouth, but it's more the tongue kind of bunching up in a very particular way to talk like, you might know some people who talk like this a little bit. Simon Bridges talks like this a little bit, not quite as strong as I'm doing, but it's a quality of that.
Okay. And then last one. What is it to get the sound feeling like it's really living quite deep down in your throat? You're really down low in your throat. Yeah, maybe like a big teddy bear or a dog. Oh, yeah, it might be the way that you talk to your dog. Perhaps, hello, doggy. Yeah. So that idea of moving the voice around in that way can just help you explore different possibilities with your voice. And like I say, these are extremes. And it's definitely moving you into kind of cartoon territory. I wouldn't suggest any of those voice types are useful things to move towards as the new voice that I'm going to adopt for myself. But the more that you can be playful and hear different things and trying to work out how to put those different things into your own voice, the more that you'll be able to change what you want to change. So I'm not suggesting that, it's just like, well, my voice is my voice and you just have to deal with it. There are things that we want to do, and you've listed some of those things in terms of, having greater clarity, having more variety, but have them come from a place of your genuine desire, not because you've been told, right? Not because somebody said, oh, your voice is boring, you need more variety in your voice, or anything like that. And just because you get curious and it feels fun to do. So this kind of play, I can see some of you smiling as you're exploring some of them. Great. Play more, play more and go, I love it when I move my voice around in that way. Cool. And then put it into speaking once you've kind of worked out what that is. Don't add more melody. Like the thing, I'm going to wrap up to give you some chances to talk and let me know what you're thinking about and give you some answers to some of your questions. But one of the things I hate, and it's so easy to spot, and I reckon if you are really honest with yourself, you'll put your hand up like I'm putting my hand up and saying, yeah, sometimes I've fallen into this trap of these ideas that we have about what we think good speech sounds like. And then we try to replicate it. And we do all of the good things that we've been taught or that we've practiced ourselves to make ourselves sound good to our audience. And we're dead, like I'm listening to a robot. That person has no heart attached to what they're talking about, or no spirit, the sound. So there's a bit of work to move from that place of finding the newness and then bringing it into yourself, so that it's not a layer that you're putting on, a costume that sits on top of who you truly are. But again, that's work, and that's more work and more conversation than 1 hour will allow. Okay. No, I'll say that thing that I want to say right at the end. Thank you for enduring for the last 45 minutes with my little dance around getting you to think about your voice in a few different ways and do a few different things, make some different sounds. What's on your mind? If we were to spend the next 10 minutes letting you say some things you're thinking about, and how do you want to do it, Jackie? Do we want people to talk and use their voices? That would be nice to hear people. But
Yeah.
also you can chat if you want to. I'll be
I
quiet.
think that's a good idea, because in Toastmasters, I feel like we do focus on correct speaking, and often we correct the way people speak. But really, if you're trying to connect, some of that connection is actually using colloquialism. And why are we so afraid of playing with our voice? Because it is a big part of what we're supposed to do. So yeah, let's open it up to the real voice.
Yeah. Jump on in, anyone, but I'll just say Ashley's just brought up that Yeah, Mum calls it my Toastmasters voice. So this idea that I have a different voice. I have a different voice. I have my voice that, and some of us have telephone voices, you know. I talk like, hello, hello, John speaking. I'm being silly. I don't say that at all, but this idea that I have a voice here and a voice there, and maybe we could bring those things together. That's what you're saying, Ashley. Yeah. We could just sit and breathe together. Kia ora.
Kia ora, John. Thank you for today. I found some struggles coming through some of my thinking as well, like probably many of us. And I can see that because I did come from a bit of a history where you were taught English from English-speaking people. And of course, I come from a little bit of pain where you weren't even allowed to invite yourself through your reo language of Maori in this particular instance. And I think you're trying to associate with people by perhaps using your high T's, you know, and I'm just finding that I'm going through a bit of a transition in my mind, wondering how would people connect with me if I didn't speak the way they might perhaps expect me to speak, perhaps like through some types of protocols. And I've just found that quite challenging. So I've got a lot of thinking to do, John. But I really do appreciate that I have come here and now my mind is wondering, can I really say bara? I don't think so, John. But the point is that it was good for me to come through that experience.
Yeah, kia ora aroha. It's absolutely, like, I'm not, it's, you're asking the question though, and I think that's the thing that I'm hunting for, is that we get curious and we just start to notice and bring it to the fore and then own it, because I think that's what I'm hearing you do now as well. As you go, now the question is there, okay, I'm being told that it's possible to say it this other way, which has a lot of trauma associated with it, perhaps in terms of the learning. But I kind of, you know, it feels like me now. And I like it and it's fine and it works. But now you're just more aware. So it's a choice as opposed to something that's been imposed on you. And you can hear when I speak, I'm more often than not say butter. So I'm not, you know, but I, you know, I also enjoy shifting and changing and finding other ways of exploring too. The thing maybe that I'm thinking about, that all of this is about, is, do I feel my voice stopping me from connecting? Is that T sound a wall or a barrier or a proof that I am something that I actually don't feel like I am? I'm intelligent. Can you tell? Can you tell by the way that I speak? I'm educated. You know, and if we're using it as a bit of a defense mechanism, then that's where I would encourage you to be really curious. Can I let go of that? Am I really letting people know who I truly am? Or am I hiding behind sound? Am I creating a persona that's not really me? I'm not suggesting that you have to change that either, but if you're aware, then you're aware. Go, yep, because I don't want you to know the real me. You can know this me. I don't know you yet. You're not my friend. I'll invite you in later. And we can have a cup of, it's a cup of tea. I was going to say a cup of tea together. Have a cup of tea. Yeah. What else? We've got 5 minutes. I was going to say before Aroha's beautiful sharing, we could just breathe for the next 5 minutes. No one wants to make noise. No, come on.
John, yeah.
You go, sorry.
Yeah. John, it's Shane here.
Hi, Shane.
Yeah. I'm a typical Kiwi. I have a lot of problem trying to pronounce any other language it's going. It doesn't matter whether it's English, Spanish, or whatever. I just can't get my tongue or my brain around languages full stop trying to pronounce them myself.
Yeah.
You know, obviously I've got a blank there of some shape or form, and I don't know whether it's my tongue, my brain, or my feet. Any comments on it?
Yeah.
Or my wife, yeah, who's English.
It's related to that idea of a pathway or a pattern. So your mouth essentially your speech system, your instrument, is very strongly locked in around the way that you currently speak, you know, and it knows what it knows. So when it sees a combination of sounds, it says them in a particular way. And with that little bit of play that we were doing earlier, where I was getting you to move things around, speaking in a different accent or a different language, even just speaking English in a slightly different way, requires us to make those movements happen. Like you can't change, again, just to use a silly example that we've got, you can't change butter to butter unless you change something. You can't just change it because you hear it and because you want it to change. You've literally got to make changes in the mouth. And those changes are muscular, it's action. So some of what needs to happen, Shane, is that we need to have the knowledge. So that's the thing that you sort of lack. And I'm not saying you lack knowledge, but the specific knowledge of what do I change? Like
I
what
could
is
take my teeth out, but they're fixed.
that won't help either. The teeth are very useful and important to lots of articulation. But it's about having the right kind of knowledge ultimately to make those fine-tuned changes inside the mouth, to move from you know, a t to a t to a t, which are 3 different ways of making tea, and they're all similar, but they're not the same. So
I know Kiwis have a lazy accent. You know, it's a bit like.
I'll dispute that, and not because I know exactly what you mean, but I think that, look, and I'm not actually, I feel like I'm jumping on you, but I'm not, but I want us to notice when we use negatives to describe the way that we speak. So lazy is this idea of, oh, like I'm not working hard enough, there's not enough energy. It's just different. That's what I really want you to understand. It's just different. And remembering that Shane, you're a real human being, right? And you've lived a life, and maybe somebody thinks that life is interesting enough to make a film out of. I'm just getting us to imagine here. And so they're making a film and somebody's going to play Shane. We get an actor to play Shane. That actor needs to learn how to speak like Shane speaks, and I'm the one who's going to help them. That actor, say they were American. I don't know if any of you have seen The World's Fastest Indian, where Anthony Hopkins plays a New Zealander. For him to, and you will have your opinions around how well he did, but for this imaginary actor to play Shane, will need to work quite hard to actually get their mouth to sound the way that Shane uses words. So this idea of it being a lazy accent is this, it's a narrative of this idea that correct speech sounds different. And for me to say butter, it's a lazy way of saying butter, for example. So I just want to kind of jump on that and say it's not lazy, it's just different. And you're identifying difference though. So if we want to make it different, then we just need to kind of grab some information and work out how to do that.
Can I ask that same thing? Some of that is related to the ability to hear or listen, perhaps. I've got a Japanese friend who can't distinguish what is easy for us between an L and an R.
Yes.
But they use what I would call a rolled R, what you were talking about for. So te reo is something that is within their natural, his natural speech. So is learning, is there some skill there in hearing the difference as well? That's the question.
Yeah, Max, you're absolutely on the money. There's a phrase that I often use when this kind of thing comes up. The voice can't reproduce what the ear can't hear. And this comes from an ear, nose, throat doctor in some of his research. But the ear can't, the voice can't reproduce what the ear can't hear. And you're sort of speaking to that, their inability to actually calculate or compute the difference. They actually can't hear the difference because those two sounds don't exist inside Japanese. So they're trying to fit it into something that they do know. In the same way that I said, how would you describe butter? Like, what's that sound? And a lot of people say, oh, it's a D sound. Well, it's not a D sound. It's just we don't talk about the sound that it actually is, which is actually a tapped R. So yeah, getting curious with what we're hearing as well. But again, I don't know, it's easy for me to sort of say because I've developed my ear to be able to hear that kind of fine-tuned stuff. But that does start with, I think I'll just come back to it, starts with curiosity. Let's get interested in trying to hear difference first. and then gathered the information that allows me to talk about what that difference is, and then how to learn how to do it myself. Those are probably the steps that we need to take. Get curious, gather the information, work out how to do it.
Thank you, John. I think the time is almost up.
Yeah,
now.
I know.
John will be on again tomorrow. Will it be the same or different?
It will be same territory, but I'll do some different stuff because I'll get bored with myself if I just repeat myself.
Yeah.
But it's in this territory that we're talking about. So yeah, I'd love for you to come back if you want, but you do also have these other wonderful presenters that will be wanting your energy and input as well. But it will be slightly different, so you would get more. Yeah.
You mentioned there could be some handout or some resources for them.
Absolutely. So there'll be some stuff. I'll expand on everything that we've talked about, give you different resources, things to listen to, things to watch, just give you more ability to dip into some of these areas, and also share my my details with everyone. If you've got any questions or want me to point you to anything, I'll happily do that as well. So I know I've just opened up a whole can of worms for you all, and not really necessarily. I'm not quite sure I'm going with that metaphor. What I've done with the worms, I've just opened it up. They've crawled out. They haven't made a meal of it yet. Yeah.
We'll have to go to therapy now. Thank you very much, John. And I'll see you again tomorrow.